Let's move on to the main event of the evening.
Yeah, we had Rob Font and Cody Garbrandt. So this kind of
Another fight we put perfect.
yeah, this happened exactly how he said it would as well. You know, it was, although I will say, we did say it was a boxing match. Cody Garbrandt did surprise me with a couple of wrestling takedowns out there. He does.
Only because the striking didn't work. And
Yeah,
he wasn't really even able to hold Rob Font down for all that long. He took him down, and Rob Font was up almost immediately. Once he got his wits about him, he stood right back up, started landing that long jab on him. And it was really hard for Cody to do anything because every time Cody was ready to pop, pop. Okay, well, maybe I should pop, pop, pop. All right, well, now I'm going to pop. He just was at the end. So he was a less technical boxer who had the shorter reach against a guy with a longer jab. And I had said this to you, Keith, outside of the podcast, but I had tweeted all about it that, fighters coming back from lengthy battles with COVID, they don't have great records, especially as you get into the later rounds. Now, props to Cody. His chin held up, and he's had chin issues in the past. His cardio looked fine, but he just looked like he was a step or two behind. Rob Font. And, when it came to, he got some wrestling early, but as it got later in the fight, that didn't hold up as well. And then Rob Font turned around and he took him down a couple times. So, at the end of the day, I think we saw Rob Font just kind of show Cody, like, listen, like, you're a good fighter, but I'm a much better fighter. And styles make matchups, and this is a terrible matchup for Cody Garbrandt.
yeah.
Like we said, Cody Garbrandt was on a 3-fight losing streak and then had a phenomenal knockout of Asuncao, but Asuncao was rated lower in the division. Asuncao was not the same level as Rob Font, and after that one win to throw him Rob Font was almost doing Cody a disservice following issues with blood clots, issues with his kidneys, issues with COVID, this long battle, a year off out of the octagon. I didn't like that fight. I think it was too much too soon for Cody Garbrandt. And now, as far as, like, if you're Cody, like, what do you do in the bantamweight division? There's a lot of question marks surrounding you, and that bantamweight division has a bunch of killers. Say what you want about Aljamain Sterling. He's a paper champ. He's annoying. He's cringy. He's all of these things, but he is still a solid fighter, and he still would beat Cody Garbrandt 10 times out of 10, in my personal opinion, with his ability to wrestle. I think he has a solid striking. I think he probably even has a reach advantage on him. So, I mean, I don't see Cody contending for the belt at bantamweight. Not to mention, you have to do Sterling and Jan, at the end of, you have to do when Aldo comes back from his neck surgery. Not to say that he's not going to get neck surgery, but I just think the timing of it, saying, oh, I needed this for years, and then now to get it when you have the belt. And when you win it in such a fishy way, he initially wasn't happy to win the belt, and then to turn around and then now to gloat about having the belt. I mean, you just did a complete 180 in who you are and in your character, and that makes it come off fake. And the number one thing I don't like about UFC fighters, but people in general, is being fake. And he comes off like he's trying to be the heel. He's trying to be an asshole. He was a really, really good, genuine dude leading up to that, and now all of a sudden he turns heel. I just don't understand it. But you got to do him and Jan as much as he's going to try and run. Jan deserves a rematch. I've had friends and I've had this debate before where they go, well, shouldn't Jan know the rules? Yes, he should know the rules. I'm not disagreeing with you in that front, but in the middle of a fight, the guy's on the ground. Does he have one knee? Is he getting up? Does he have two knees? Your corner's yelling at you one thing, and the other corner's yelling at you another thing. They're yelling at you in English. They're yelling at you in Russian. All of these things happen. I can understand where a mistake could be made, but I'm not even saying that, he should have lost the title. But I think because he was winning that fight, because there's a mistake that you could see happen, I think he deserves an immediate rematch. You got Corey Sanhagan fighting TJ Dillashaw. That got scheduled for the end of June. That's going to be a really interesting fight. I mean, we already saw Rob Font really put it on Marlon Moraes. Jose Aldo, he has a fight coming up soon against Pedro Munoz, who is unbelievably underrated in the division. And you also have Dominic Cruz you can't forget about. Marav Dvalishvili, who we saw a few weeks ago, just totally outclassed his opponent. This is a very, very interesting bantamweight division. And if you're Cody Garbrandt sitting at number 4, the rankings come out on Tuesday. We record this on a Monday. So when I say Cody Garbrandt's at 4, he's probably going to move back to somewhere around 6 or 7. You also have, you know what? Give me Cody Garbrandt versus Frankie Edgar. Let's see where Frankie is in terms of, he's definitely getting up there in age. Let's see where Frankie is right now. Let's see if Cody can, bounce back here. I don't think Cody's done again. He's only 30 years old, 29, 30 years old. He has, we saw him, some good things to take away for Cody in that fight. He wasn't wild. He never got flustered and freaked out. He didn't start throwing crazy like he had did in the past. He kept his emotions under control. Yeah. He tried to be technical, but he was just against a more technical boxer, and that's okay. He's not the best boxer in the UFC, but what he is he's one of the fastest guys, and he hits really hard for that division. So he needs to, get a matchup where that's going to be good for him. He wants to wrestle. Well, let's see if you can keep Frankie Edgar off of you.
Yeah, I don't think that that's the case. I feel like, for Cody Garbrandt to really he'll fall back to 6-7, like you said, maybe even 8 if Dana White's if he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed tomorrow. But, that was tough. For Cody Garbrandt, you need to win that fight in order to secure a short-term title bout. Especially like you said, it's a division loaded full of killers, and maybe if we would have seen the TJ Dillashaw Sanhagan fight when it was scheduled for last month, then we would have a little bit of a clearer picture as to where this is going, where this division is headed in the near future. That fight's very important to see who goes up for a title shot after, if they do decide to run it back with Aldo and Peter Yan. So he needed to win this fight more than anything. And I feel like with this loss, he's going to fall back. He's going to become almost a gatekeeper, where guys that are moving up, trying to make their way up to the belt. Okay, well, can you beat Cody Garbrandt? And it sucks to say it, but who's risen and fallen as fast as Cody Garbrandt, right? That guy had a straight shot to the top, and he's just fallen off big time now.
He had the belt, too. He had the belt, lost it to TJ, turned around, fought TJ. But those 2 fights against TJ, you got to remember, you could say that was old Cody, so to speak. And old Cody would get into wars, and he would do things that would end up getting him caught, right? So those were your 2 losses to TJ. We talked about it last week on the fight where he bumped head with Munoz, and ended up getting KO'd because he started being wild and got into a shootout. You come back against Rafael Assunção, which is noticeably a step down in talent, KO him, great for you, but then you now go back up to the top of the division and rampant. It's really making you realize, does Cody Garbrandt belong in the top 5 of the division? He hasn't at this point shown anything that with these guys in the current division, with the killers that are in there now. I mean, look, Aldo, Yan, Sanhagan, Font. You have Aldo, who's looked really good in there. Marias, who's solid. Pedro Munoz, Dominic Cruz, who's still got some gas in the tank. Merab Dvalishvili. That's 7, 8 guys right there that are killers that I think are not great matchups for Cody Garbrandt. Yeah. So, I mean, let's just go on a limb and we say Aldo and Yan happens in November.
Yeah, ideally, maybe January, depending on Aljo's recovery schedule, but I do think that'll be the next title fight.
Okay, so we'll agree on that, or foregone conclusion. We got Sanhagan versus TJ Dillashaw.
I got Sanhagan in that fight.
The winner of that fight, is it an immediate title shot, or do they have to fight somebody else, you think?
I really think more importantly than anything is you need to see who's holding the belt at the end of that Aldo Peter Yan fight, because what kind of stylistic matchup can you make for it? But I think out of the 2 of those guys, right, TJ Dillashaw been out for quite some time now, had a year-long suspension. Corey Sanhagan slowly chipping away, making his way up in the rankings in that division. Yeah, it would make sense for that to be the next fight up.
I think what you do is, because that fight is happening in June, and then the Aldo Yan fight isn't going to happen until October, November at the earliest. Yeah. I think you take the winner of Sanhagan Dillashaw, and Font gets that guy.
Ah, that's a good idea.
And then I think the winner of that fight fights for the belt following Aldo Yan.
Yeah, I don't hate that idea at all.
And then you got Jose, just stay with me for a second. Yeah. And you got Jose and Pedro Munoz that's happening in June as well. I think the winner of that fight, I think or maybe the loser of that fight fights Jose Aldo, and maybe Dominic Cruz fights the winner of that fight. There's a lot of great fights in there, but I think the winner of Sanhagan and Dillashaw has to fight Rob Font for the next title contender.
Yeah, I like that a lot because Rob Font really did prove himself as a contender in this one. Just, that length and that reach use being so prime to him more than anything. That was just so crisp the way that he used those long jabs. I'll tell you one fight that I do want to see, though. I would like to see a running back of Dominic Cruz versus Cody Garbrandt, because obviously, like, neither of those guys, we don't want to speak too soon for Cody Garbrandt because this could have been a bad showing just against a guy who is way better than him, way bigger than him. But I kind of would like to see that now. They're both a little bit older. We do have a different style of Cody Garbrandt going. We have calm Cody, not crazy Cody. And Dominic Cruz is getting, he has some left in the gas tank, but he's getting a little bit up there in age. On the flip side, maybe Cody Garbrandt versus Jose Aldo after this fight. I would like to see either one of those matchups. Bunch of classic names out there for longtime fans. It'd be a little bit of a treat for them. People that watch that Dominic Cruz Cody Garbrandt title fight. Maybe run that back. I think that might be a little bit of fun to watch, and it might give Cody Garbrandt a chance to prove himself against a longtime vet commentator. He does those videos like breaking down the fights and breaking down the moves for ESPN. So that would be a fight that would sell, and the beef would probably be incredible. We might see a return to Crazy Cody just because he hates Dominic Cruz so much. But those are two matchups that I would potentially like to see. But you're right. Yeah, the winner of Dillashaw versus Sanhagan, put him up against Font. That's the way to do it. And then you see who can go for the belt from there because, quite frankly, if it was up to me, you'd have Rob Font moving in there right after Aldo and Peter Yan run it back just because of the challenge that he presents for everyone based on size and technique. Peter Yan, in my opinion, is head and shoulders above a lot of guys in this division and in the top 10 for this division. But yeah, we got to see how that Sanhagan Dillashaw fight works out. That's the first and foremost.
And the loser of Sanhagan Dillashaw should face the winner of Jose versus Pedro.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
But listen, we established this bantamweight division stacked. We just spent 15 minutes talking about it or something like that. Stacked, right? I know we've talked about how stacked the flyweight division is at 145 with Max Holloway and Brian Ortega coming back and Volkanovski, and that's only going to get better following Tough, right? And we've talked about it last week, and we'll continue to talk about it. Lightweight is absolutely probably one of the most stacked divisions out there. That 135, 145, 155 division for the men, absolute killers. I cannot wait. You also have Cheeto Vera in there, who handed Sugar Sean O'Malley his first loss. He's there in the bantamweight division. Sugar Sean O'Malley, he's a 35er, and he's not even ranked yet. And he's fighting again in July on the Cody not the Cody card, the Conor card.
Yeah,
so.